Now, I want you to realize something, that if you're a serious student of literature or a serious student of philosophy and fine arts or stuff like that, so you have to begin to realize that you are sort of a minority within a bigger group. Does that make sense at all? A priori, you're already a minority because most people don't bother with this stuff. And most people, even when they watch some of my videos, they still don't bother. They take the stuff from my video and just run away because they think, well, this is boiled down, this is simplified. Well, that's all I need. Let me run away with this. So this is what I've been talking about for a very long time, and I think there are 2 of my videos that talked about the importance of actually doing the research yourself, the importance of thinking things through for yourself, and not just to rely on me to talk it or to spoon feed you with all the stuff that I've learned myself that I put together inside my own head. But today I'm still gonna spoon feed you because that's sort of the nature of the show. I really do encourage you to sort of when you finish watching this video, put it away and then just shut the video off, forget everything that I've said, and then reconsider this problem from scratch for yourself, because you might reach different conclusions than mine. And the more that I begin to read, the more that I expose myself to wider literature and to wider pursuits of discipline. Philosophy and literature are sort of the two of my main things. But the more that I read a little bit about music theory, read a little bit about postmodern literary theory, or read a little bit about some completely wacky stuff, like some biography of Mozart, a biography of Goethe, a biography of Elton John. There's just so much stuff to synthesize together that I would really encourage you to do your own set of research. This video is just a pointer for you to sort of expand your own horizon of Renaissance learning or polymath learning, whatever you want to call this thing that we're doing here. But this is just a pointer. You have to do your own research yourself. And then polymath, as I said before, they're not just completely scattered and reading into everything that it could. They tend to have specifics of focus. For example, my focus is philosophy and literature. And all of the problem that I tackle from that distinct focus right there, it's going to branch out. So it looks like a T. So the branch over here is my specialized field. And then all the other knowledge are just going to grow this tree upwards. It's just going to facilitate my understanding. So I really encourage you to sort of do your own research in terms of reading stuff, in terms of synthesizing all this stuff in your brain, and in terms of understanding this thing that we're talking about here. So why do we read at all? Why do we bother at all? Because some of the books that we're reading are indeed very tough and very long. In the case of Don Quixote, or in the case of Infinite Jest, or in the case of Ulysses, very long books, very long and tough books. And some of them could be very hard to read. In the case of any sort of philosophy books, if you really want to invest yourself into philosophy books, well, you're in for a wild ride. Just completely wild. Why do we bother at all? Why don't we just kick back, watch YouTube video summaries about these things? Because they do a pretty damn good job of summarizing everything. This is what I believe. Blunders that people make in real life. For example, I'm going to college really soon. In 3 months, I'll be studying my undergraduate studies. And then with this sort of college when you bring up the image of college, it associates itself with all sorts of blunders. Screwing around, getting involved with the wrong people, and then doing drugs and doing alcohol. All these sort of subcategories of hideous things gets attached to this label college, that I really began to think about what's preventing people from seeing that this is the kind of stuff that's, that could destroy your life in the long term. And what I began to realize is that, not from any moralistic judgments or anything like that, it's just hideous things in real life actually look rather innocent. And the more that I began to contemplate about it, there's really nothing at all that hideous about drinking or doing drugs. It's just people are sad, and then there's this sort of compulsion to do things. And when you're within a social field, it's very hard to say no. So what we find here is that what is considered as blunders later on down the track later on in life, where people have the retrospective experience, they label that thing that they've done back in college as a blunder, as they're doing it in the midst of the moment when they're getting high, for example, or when they're getting involved with the wrong people, or when they are, accidentally doing stupid shit and getting arrested. Retrospectively, they label that thing as a blunder because they've got the knowledge now to see that thing as a blunder. But as you're doing it in the moment, as you're 19 years old or a 19-year-old young man speeding down the road, you don't exactly see that stuff as harmful or hideous. It's just your mental state. It's just stuff that's happening in the moment. Everything happens in the moment. And, well, you've done the best you could. It just happened. You didn't know any better. And this label, didn't know any better. This is the key central idea that I want to talk about here. Blunders look rather innocent in real life. That's a take. Blunders can only take on, or can be only considered as blunders in retrospect. But it's very hard for us to project into the future what's going to happen. And it's very hard for us to sort of know what's going to happen, knowing the consequences of actions. And, as hot-headed college boys, freshmen, which I will become next year, it's sort of very hard for us to see action and consequences in this sort of linear, sort of hard for us to see the connection. So you get hungover the next day, getting yelled at your job. It's not immediately sort of obvious to young people that there's an immediate connection there. Only later can we begin to realize that, hey, there's something wrong over here. I need a change. So this lack of awareness when we're still young, when the psychology is not fully developed, this lack of awareness between cause and effect, it's really sort of driving some of the quote unquote stupid stuff that we do as young people. And I'm not exempt from the rule. I'm not some guru that never got drunk. I'm not some guru that abstained from all sort of pleasures. I was very addicted to video games from 12 years old all the way till 14 years old. So when I was 14, I decided to quit video games for good. And that was a very painful sort of process. And just recently, turning 18, there's been a lot of parties going around, and then getting drunk was sort of the thing. So I just want to tell you that I'm not exempt from the rule at all. So being in that cycle, it's very hard for us to sort of project into the future and see what consequences, action and consequences there are. So it's very hard for us to sort of make that linear connection. And this connection can only come with life experience, so to speak. And stupid stuff is done because just people didn't know any better. And I didn't know any better. So why do we read literature at all? Why do we engage in this sort of critical thinking development? Why do we read philosophy, literature, and then why did I, became rather conscious of things that are potentially destroying me? It's because literature is a surrogate, or literature literally is a virtual reality machine, if you think about it. You're accessing other people's experiences. You're accessing experiences beyond yourself, which is very hard to get if you're a young person that doesn't have much life experience. When you begin to live forward, and I became more and more aware of this, venturing into university and becoming so aware, and also at my day job also, that the world didn't work the way that I thought it worked. Drinking wasn't that fun at all. And then it sort of made me, a nervous wreck all the time. So that's why I've made a commitment recently to never touch a drop of that shit ever again. I've realized that partying wasn't fun at all. I've realized that certain things that I deemed as just plainly stupid, they were actually fairly important things. So this entire worldview began to shift, and then real world sort of reconfigures ourselves, and we sort of have to adapt ourselves to the real world. So thereby, this effect of not knowing any better can be partially combated by the ingesting of literature, or the tackling, or sort of the assimilation of other people's experiences, or just sort of putting together a brief defense mechanism towards sort of quote unquote the really hideous stuff. Because hideous stuff, if you are in the wrong mental state, if you're in that state, if you get involved with the sort of people that do that kind of stuff, it's going to seem rather innocent in real life. Everything's going to look so monotonous in real life that there's not really a mechanism or critical thinking faculty to sort of note that, holy shit, this is leading me down the wrong path. There isn't even that signal going on if we don't consciously educate ourselves with literature, with philosophy, or with self-help books. Self-help books is a good place to start. I started reading, just like 100 self-help books per year when I first started this journey. And then now I've, went to deeper sources like original philosophy and manuscripts and classical literature, because I find that to be a little more challenging, a little more sort of exciting to sort of dive into. But without consciously educating ourselves, without consciously putting the information into our heads, either through school or either through self-education, we don't even have that sort of, red alert. See, if you get addicted to alcohol, you're going to completely ruin your life. Better get rid of it now when you're young than if you drag this habit onwards. And this is not even just limited to the really, really bad stuff like addiction. This also relates to many other things. The idea that money is the end-all be-all. The idea that relationship is all about sex. The idea, sort of deep-held cultural beliefs, this powerful current of cultural force, which is brilliant for the market, but if we don't develop some serious faculties within us to sort of think for a moment, to at least have that red light flashing, go do whatever the hell that you want to do, but do have that awareness that this is somewhat leading to the wrong place. We're going to be really in trouble if we don't have this faculty. I hope this is making sense, but deeply or fundamentally, I think literature or writing, or the job of writers, is to observe so carefully of the things around us and to check in with our intuitions and to really find out what it is that's happening out there, because we don't know any better. None of us know any better. And then only through sort of reading other people and synthesizing their points of view, and then knowing what's out there and knowing the world a little better, either through life experience, internship, or reading a bunch of difficult books for yourself, and then acquiring a university education and acquiring this sort of robust liberal education, can we really at all begin to see what's going on out there? Can we make better decisions, if that makes any sense at all? And that's in essence why I am so committed to self-education. It's just so important, because the things that could shift us towards the wrong tracks in life, that wouldn't actually generate happiness at the end, most just follow without a second thought. And for me, it's very important, so important in fact, to sort of pull myself out and to sort of see the bigger picture and to sort of know what's happening down there through the sort of process of intellectual inquiry. And that's why I think this is a satisfying journey. It can also be a pretty daunting journey. Some days, some book is just going to completely shatter your worldview. You're going to end up walking on the street feeling like you're an alien that just descended from outer space. But those were some of the moments that you can really begin to see the big picture of what's happening. And I'm really rather curious to see where this sort of self-education could lead into down the track. What sort of decisions would it lead to? What sort of things would it make me into? And that's in a sense why I am so excited to go to college, to acquire a pretty robust education, to go pursue this thing to its end. I think it's really the pursuing of wisdom, so to speak. It's the pursuing of things that, not as a course correction, but as a subtle reminder that stuff in real life wrong choices can be made so easily, that it's important to have this faculty. So that's, in a sense, why I love literature. And that's, in a sense, why I read a lot. That's, in a sense, why I enjoy serious and difficult books. Take it or leave it. If you love it, share this video with another person. If you hated it, well, just, thank you for sticking around. R.C. Walden here. Check out the blog. I've been posting a lot of articles recently about reading about self-education. And also, the book is still in progress. The editing is about done. So then we're venturing to the beta reader stage. And so for now, that's all I have to offer for this week. See you guys next week for more goodies.